Oh,
So that,
South Dakota. Nice. Colorado. Texas. We've got nice spread of weather there. Anybody feel like sharing while we're waiting people to join? What prompted you to join us today? Are you dealing with a chronic illness? I'm assuming all those states listed, even Texas, have been a little cooler than usual.
it's almost 6:30.
Yeah, and I am going to have to keep an eye on who's
Yeah.
joining us.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing, Amanda, Jana. You're in the right place. The
And
admitting is interesting. You
everything.
just tell me when we want to start, and I'm going to like admit and
Yep. We're going to get started in probably about another minute. We're going to let everybody that's piling into the room come on in, grab your seat, and that way we don't have a big distraction with admitting so many people while we're trying to.
I'm glad you guys are excited. We've put together a whole new program for you tonight. Yeah, Amanda, let's save your stuff till the end when we get to Q&A, if that's okay.
Oh, I have been off mic. Nobody could hear me, Heather.
Uh, I didn't realize you were talking. I'm looking at seeing who's coming in.
Oh, I've been
Um,
talking up a storm. I was
oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I was just saying that we're going to get started here at about another minute, and that if anybody is coming in and they are notice that their camera or mic are on, if they can mute themselves and just even mute your phone now for distractions. And we're gonna get rolling here in about another 30 seconds because we've got 60 slides for you tonight and we have a great presentation. We're really excited to share this information with everybody. And we want to make sure that everybody, that we respect your time and that we have time for Q&A because Q&A is really Heather and my favorite part, right, Heather?
Yeah, it's definitely our favorite part.
Yeah. So we are recording, just so you know. So if you needed to change your name to an incognito name or whatever, just go ahead and do that. But we are recording and you will receive the replay if you can't stay to the end. But we do encourage you to stay to the end because we do have a toolkit that we want to share with you. And we have an opportunity for those of you that want support that we want to share with you that's pretty exciting. So we're going to get started. It's 6:33 and we'll just take it from the top here. Hello, my name is Bobby McGrath, and I am a certified regenerative health coach, and I am here with my counterpart, Heather Sunderland. And you have registered for and shown up, or either watching the replay for our webinar called Why You're Still Sick Even After Doing Everything Right. And we are going to be going through things that are going to be helping people that have chronic illnesses, Lyme mold, SIRS, even long COVID, that we feel like there's three pretty big topics that we want to discuss tonight to share with you that potentially could move the needle on your health. So we're going to get going on that, and we will leave time for Q&A at the end and make sure that you write your questions down so you don't forget them. All right, first off, we're going to give you our connection information so that you know who we are or how to get a hold of us. And I am on the right. My name is Bobby McGrath, and my dear friend Heather Sunderland's on the left. And we both have our own private health coaching practices. And you can see Heather's got Health Coaching by Heather, and I've got Be For You Health Coaching. But we also banded together last year and created Navigating Mold and SIRS. And we have our own business together that we put together a practitioner's course last year. And we've been wanting to put together a actual client course. And our group coaching program that we're going to be talking about tonight is part of that. So take a screenshot of that. We'll also put it at the end too, so that you know that you can get a hold of us. We've got a disclaimer here. We want to cover in our talk that this talk is educational purposes only. It is not prescriptive. It's not meant to establish a client patient or relationship or practitioner relationship. So take what you need and leave the rest.
Well, welcome everybody. My name is Heather Sunderland, and we are both really glad you're here, Bobby and I, for this webinar. If I ever look like I'm looking over to the side, it's because I'm admitting people as we're giving our talk. So forgive me for that. We're just going to give you an overview of where we're going. You're going to hear a very, very short personal overview of our healing stories. Then we're going to get into the nervous system, a very key missing piece on the healing journey, and drainage pathways, which is a big missing piece. We're going to talk about environmental toxins and how to connect the dots to your symptoms. And we're going to talk about some solutions. And then we're going to have some time for Q&A.
So it's time to meet your presenters. My name, as I mentioned earlier, is Bobby McGrath, and I am there on the left. And I am actually in my home sauna. It's a little bag sauna. And that was one of the tools that I used. And you'll learn more about our health stories, but it's one of the tools I used to recover from mold toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, and chronic inflammatory response syndrome. And we banded together because we are two health coaches on a mission. We have a 2-point mission that we wanted to share with you briefly tonight. But the first point I want to share with you is that we saw a gap in a provider's education and training about toxins and mold toxicity. And we felt like we really had to get out there and put something together for practitioners to train them. So we created a course last year called Navigating Mold and SIRS. And that was one of our key points, was that we wanted to make sure that we um, filled the educational gap. And I'm going to let Heather tell you what the heck she's doing and our other point in our mission.
So I am sitting in a hyperbaric oxygen tank, and I did not use it for detox or for killing Lyme. I actually used it to help repair my nerves from Lyme disease because I had Lyme undiagnosed 22 years. So that's what I'm in. And the other part of our mission is to support mold and SIRS and Lyme clients and people with chronic health issues to restore their health using the regenerative approach and to reduce the suffering that people have. And just so many times we're misdiagnosed and people are doing treatments that are ineffective. So I'm going to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Bobby McGrath. We actually met in health coaching school, and I am just very, very thankful for Bobby because she is the reason that I found out I had chronic inflammatory response syndrome. Um, so I will be forever grateful. And she is an expert in dealing with trauma, and she taught me so much about the nervous system. She's an amazing health coach.
Thanks, Heather. So real quick, we're both going to share our stories, and I wanted to just kind of point you to a few things. I am a certified regenerative health and detox practitioner and behavioral change specialist. And the reason I even got to regenerative health in the first place is because of Heather. Heather is one of those people that once we discussed mold and SIRS, and I said, I think you really need to go down that path. She came back around and told me, hey, there's this community, it's regenerative health. I think you should check it out. And I ended up going to school and getting my certification in that. So I actually need to thank Heather for that, because I don't think I would have stumbled into that area if I didn't meet her. But my health story is that I identified and restored my health from mold toxicity, heavy metals, PTSD, and then some co-infections from Lyme and chronic inflammatory response along with that. And what I want people to know is that detoxifying in our modern world is no longer just an option for people that want to feel better or look better. It is part of the healthcare plan that you need to have in place. And my ultimate goal is to be able to bring awareness and education to providers so that they are aware of it, at least have it on their radar that toxins and mold can be a part of chronic illness and that there is hope that you can regenerate yourself from an environmental toxin and that it is possible to do that. And now I'm going to introduce you to Heather, my dear friend and colleague, and my co-owner of Navigating Mold and SIRS. She is a muscle testing whiz. She's incredibly smart. She's been through the ringer. And if you stick around long enough and listen to Heather's story, your mouth will hit the floor. But I want you to know that she is one of those people that is, if you are in her care and you are being coached by her, you have gold because she does an excellent job and she knows her stuff.
Thanks, Bobby. So, um, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my health story. You can read about my background there. But as I said, I had undiagnosed Lyme and Bartonella, 22 years, a lifetime of mold exposure. And it wasn't until 5 years ago I found out I had SIRS. I was very, very sick. Sorry, I'm admitting people, very, very sick, and very, very disabled, and a lot of acute pain due to neuropathy and the Bartonella. And I don't have mold, Lyme, or SIRS anymore. It was quite the journey. And I really want to give people hope that no matter how long you've been sick, that if you have a desire and a will, you can get well. It's not always, comfortable, the process of healing. And often if you're not getting well, there are these missing pieces to the puzzle, that we're going to go over some of those missing pieces tonight. So there's a lot more both of us could tell you about our story, but there's really not time. So just want to tell you where we're going. We're going to talk about the nervous system and some important features of the nervous system. There are four states of the nervous system that we're going to go over. And then we're going to talk about why the parasympathetic state is so important, because that's when we're in the rest and digest state where healing can truly happen.
Well, first, we're going to talk a little bit about the key function features of the nervous system. And it's really important for you to understand that the nervous system enables the body to respond to internal and external stimuli. So we all know that we react to all the things around us outside, but a lot of times people don't spend much time at all thinking about how they're internally reacting to their world and the events, their internal stimuli. And the nervous system is designed to maintain balance, and it's going to be performing complex behaviors and cognitive functions. And it's designed to keep us alive. That's what it's put in place for and help us survive. That's the whole purpose of it. And it has certain mechanisms to be able to survive. And we're very thankful that it goes into survival mode when we need to. But unfortunately, the nervous system can get greatly damaged by insults from our daily life, things that we do on purpose, and maybe we don't even realize that we're getting exposed to, past events and traumas and stress, and the environment. And what happens is, this is a new word for some of you, it's called dysregulation. Your nervous system becomes dysregulated when it is damaged and insulted by those things. So let's talk a little bit about what dysregulated nervous system actually means. It's when the body stays in a protective mode, even when the danger has passed. And that's a pretty key point right there, is that the body, even though you're out of danger, whatever that danger may have been, your body doesn't know that you're out of danger and it stays in that mode. And those big blocks there, you can see this is what happens when you stay dysregulated. Detoxification typically slows down. And for some people like Heather and I, it kind of screeched to a halt. And we detox every day. There's not one day in your life that you're not detoxifying. But when you are in hypersensitive, sympathetic driven mode, detox gets much harder. Your inflammatory processes rise. So that's not just your arms and legs and joints, but your brain. Your hormonal imbalances happen. That's when people, struggle with their mood, or maybe they have acne or things like that. Um, Digestion will struggle, and then the immune system will stay on high alert when your nervous system is dysregulated. So it's always surveilling and always looking around for danger.
So, what causes the nervous system to get dysregulated? So, there are a lot of things. that can impact the nervous system negatively. And often when we see individuals, it's not just one thing that's causing the dysregulation, but trauma, current or past trauma, can be a huge negative impact on the nervous system. Chronic stress, environmental toxins, which can be mold, but it can also be other environmental toxins like chemicals, pesticides. And we're going to talk a little bit more later about environmental toxins. Pathogens, that can be parasites, viruses, bacteria. I was sick this summer with Giardia. That actually negatively impacted my nervous system. So, different pathogens can have a real negative impact on how the nervous system functions. And then the choices we make in our lifestyle, movement, food choices can all dysregulate the nervous system. So we want you to know that the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, we're looking at two aspects of it. The sympathetic, which is where we don't want to spend most of our time. The sympathetic, when we're in sympathetic mode, that's when we're in fight or flight. That's when if something's chasing us, an animal's chasing us, we go into fight or flight. That causes certain processes in the body to shut down so that you can flee. You end up in survival mode. If we're in chronic stress, we're chronically, if we have something like active Lyme mold exposure, that can put us into this sympathetic mode and negatively impact the nervous system. Where we want the body to spend more of its time is in the parasympathetic mode, because that's where digestion can happen, rest can happen, repair can happen, and the body is regulated. There's calmness when we're in the parasympathetic mode. Everything just works better when we're in the parasympathetic mode.
So there's four different states of the nervous system, and we've talked a little bit, Heather's talked a little bit about the parasympathetic um, nervous system state. And as you can see by this person sleeping in the bed, that's when we are relaxed and calm and curious and regulated and motivated. That's where most people find that they really enjoy life. The sympathetic is necessary for us to giddy up and go and to fight or flight. It's when we're more activated. It's when we're stressed, but we're moving along, sensing danger and decision time or action. There are a lot of people who are addicted to being in this mode. They have to get to that mode before they actually find that they're actually doing anything for the day. And unfortunately, that is not where we want to be. When you spend a lot of time in sympathetic and you're burning the candle, you're grinding it, you're pushing through and you're using up all your minerals, you eventually can end up in overwhelm where you're confused, your mind's racing, you struggle with sleeping issues, concentration, fearfulness, and forgetfulness are definitely something I know when I was the sickest with mold toxicity, I was fearful all the time. That eventually can lead you to a place called freeze. And that's where most people that you can see in this world, if you spend enough time people watching, you will see the people that are numb. They're just not there. They become reserved. They stop talking. Maybe they go limp or they zone out. They're just it's hard to reach them. So those are the four states that typically you're going to see in someone. And we want to spend our time in the parasympathetic mode because that's where the system is responsible for the body's rest and digest, like Heather said. And so on the run eating is not a place in the sympathetic mode that you're going to be able to digest your food. Your things like um, digesting your food as part of this parasympathetic system is where the saliva and the enzymes are made. And so if you're in sympathetic, you're going to be trying to eat food and digest, and you're going to be struggling to actually assimilate and pull that food into your body and start to have the intestines move. Maybe your bile that's in your liver and your gallbladder that's designed to break down your fats. There's just not enough of it because the body thinks you need to shut down digestion because that's not something you would do in survival mode. Elimination is another piece to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is very involved with helping you remove the waste. So if you say, I have had clients say, I've been chronically constipated since I was a little kid. That to me right away tells me that your nervous system, especially your vagus nerve, which we're going to talk about, is really has really low tone. And so contraction of the bladder is going to struggle. And the peristalsis, which is the wave-like motion in your contraction in your intestines, does slow down, and there you get constipation. Parasympathetic is also where we restore. So when we're sleeping, that's when most of the restoration happens. And if you can't sleep, then it's definitely something that you um, are going to struggle with because of the fact. Sorry, guys, I just had something show up on here. Um, because of the fact that you're in sympathetic. So if you're in a sympathetic driven mode, you're going to struggle with sleep. Therefore, restoration doesn't happen.
So all of the clients that we see, especially Lyme mold, SIRS, chronic illness, struggle with this vagus nerve tone. Now, the vagus nerve starts at the base of the skull. The brain runs all the way down the body, innervates most most of our organs. And Bobby sort of hit on it. Like when people are constipated, often, or they have motility issues, that's vagus nerve tone that's struggling. Um, so when we have better vagal nerve tone, you're going to have better digestion, better motility with your gut. You're going to have better sleep. You're going to have less pain. It's going to decrease fight or flight. It's going to help you have more resilience. And we're going to show more about how to support your vagal nerve tone if you're doing group coaching with us. It's not something we're going to go over here. But 75% of the parasympathetic nerve fibers come into that 10th cranial nerve called the vagus nerve and run down the body. It's a very powerful thing to help your vagal nerve tone. So we want to talk about, we're not going to talk about all of these signs of nervous system dysregulation, but we're going to talk about a few of the ones that we had. And I think a lot of us, and even all the clients we deal with, overwhelm is a really good word for those of us who are nervous system dysregulated. When I was diagnosed with SIRS, I was very overwhelmed, and every decision just felt very difficult because of that nervous system dysregulation. I also had a lot of pain. I think those were my two biggies. But Bobby, what about you?
I would say connective tissue pain it just would not go away, especially after exercise. And I just knew because it was global pain, it didn't make sense to me. And then the emotional piece of it, because I coincided my PTSD with mold toxicity and menopause, it was like a perfect storm to be crying at the grocery store. I mean, just I couldn't keep it together. So those are some things. But that list is not exhaustive. Believe me, there's a lot of signs of the nervous system regulation that we just don't have time to go into tonight. But one of the things we did want to make sure that you understood is if you are a person who is either taking care of someone that's chronically ill, or maybe you yourself think you maybe have some chronic type illness, there are patterns that people fall into that clearly now that Heather and I been around the block on this kind of stuff, you kind of start to notice it. Someone who's emotionally or nervous system dysregulated is going to be very hyperverbal. Maybe that means they go from one story to the next story to the next story, and it's not really a two-sided conversation. They're not asking you questions. They talk in circles and they're very repetitive. And then they can also be a person that really, really struggles to make a decision, almost like they're frozen, like they're so afraid to make the wrong decision that they don't make a decision, or they have a really low capacity for stress and they shut down really easy. So maybe something that comes along that to you doesn't seem like a big deal, but to them, it just threw them under the bus. They couldn't get out of bed. They had to cancel plans, things like that.
And then lastly, when people are breaking boundaries, not respecting your boundaries, that's huge. Or they have this constant, I can't tell you how many clients have said to me, can I really get well? Just that constant need for reassurance. And I want to just mention too, on the trouble making a decision, we see this a lot with clients who jump around from practitioner to practitioner to practitioner, and they really don't give any approach time. That's really classic nervous system dysregulation.
So, in summary on this nervous system, we hope that we have made our point pretty boldly tonight and banged it home here that the nervous system has to be a priority. It's one of the biggest areas I would have to say personally, and I believe Heather is going to agree with me that if you are not addressing the nervous system with your own health, with the chronic issues you have, it is going to be like a leaky bucket, right? Because a dysregulated nervous system is going to leave the body in survival mode. You're going to be in survival mode instead of healing mode. As we mentioned, the detox pathways slow down. Your immune system becomes confused and overwhelmed because it's trying to regulate itself, but the nervous system is giving messages that are sometimes incorrect or just overwhelming. The gut typically stops working properly when the nervous system is not working. So if you're a person that's constipated, if you're a person that vacillates between diarrhea and constipation, because the signal is go, 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 and then all of a sudden the signal is like, no, 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 don't go, don't go. And then the body becomes hypersensitive. So it's always surveilling and looking. So the nervous system is the critical piece to the puzzle, and it's kind of like not putting gas in your car. You eventually will not be able to move forward. And I want to make really quick the little puzzle piece over there, the past traumas, that I cannot tell you is part of SIRS for sure, and part of chronic illness because past traumas live inside of our nervous system, in our fascia. And when you work on that piece of it and you're able to clear the traumas and work through them and to find a place for the nervous system to be able to store them without triggering you, that's when the deeper detox and all of the work that you're doing can pay off. So now we're going to move on to a different topic on drainage pathways, and we want to get clear on the importance of what opening a drainage pathway is. Think of a tub that's got a plug in it, and you're trying to clean the tub, but you didn't pull the plug. And then we're also going to talk about signs your drainage pathways are struggling, because somebody might say, "Well, I don't know. Are my drainage pathways open? How would I know?"
I'm going to suggest that you guys may want to consider as we show you these pathways, if they resonate with you, take a screenshot of the pathway. So we want to make sure that we're not skipping the basics. I see this, we both see this happen all the time. People start detoxing, they start killing, they do a parasite cleanse, heavy metal detox, and drainage isn't always open first. And that leads to a host of symptoms. Um, Detox is not the act of a toxin leaving the body. That's actually drainage. The toxins leaving is drainage. Detox is the act of pulling the toxin into the space where the lymph can carry it and grab it out and pass it on so it can leave the body. So when your drainage pathways are struggling, those toxins have no place to go. And so often, like this picture with someone with a skin rash, when somebody has a skin rash, that is a sign that their drainage pathways are struggling. People will talk about, sorry, a Herxheimer reaction. That's not really normal. It's normal to have symptoms on a healing journey. But if pathways are supported, those symptoms are lessened. So it's really, really important to open drainage pathways first. Give that get that flow going over those drainage pathways so the toxins are able to leave through these exit routes that we're going to talk about in a minute. I can tell you on my journey with chronic Lyme, when they started to kill Lyme, nobody talked about nervous system and nobody did drainage pathways. And when I was diagnosed with SIRS, my wonderful, wonderful doctor, after me being sick 28 years, they did nothing with drainage, which, I felt miserable when we started to detox. So we want to give you a picture of this toxic bucket in the body. We want you to know there are lots of different toxins that we're all exposed to, and we wanted to have a visual. So these pathogens and toxins fill up our bucket: parasites, bacteria, viruses, candida, the foods we eat, the prescription medicines, the over-the-counter medicines, pesticides, heavy metals, stress. All of these things fill up our bucket. And when that bucket starts to get filled, that leads to symptoms. And that can lead to a diagnosis of an illness. It can lead to chronic inflammation, allergies, a suppressed immune system, chronic disease. Our goal is not to remove the symptoms, which is really what I think traditional medicine tries to do, is give you a medicine to decrease your symptoms. We want to address the root, which is really we want to empty the bucket, which happens over time. And we need a spout on that bucket, which the drainage pathways are, so that things can flow out of the body. But we need to address the whole picture to get well.
So you might be sitting here thinking, well, how would I know what is what? So we're going to go through some organs so that you can get a better idea. So one of the things that signs that your bowels may need support are if you are not having bowel movements, if you're not going to the bathroom every day, and if you're even just going once a day, that can be just a slow system. And having a little maybe travel or something disrupt it, and bang, all of a sudden it's 2 or 3 days you haven't gone. If you have loose stools or diarrhea, definitely is needing support in the bowels area. Constipation or hard bowels, where your bowel movements where you're having to struggle to go. Your body's sending the signal to go, but it's just not comfortable. And then gas and bloating and cramping, things that are just very uncomfortable for a lot of people. The next one would be liver. So you can kind of palpate where your liver is. It's on your right side of your body, right below your ribs. So if you took your hand and you put it on the kind of the slanty side of your ribs and curled your fingers underneath your rib cage and gave it a little press in there, that's where your liver is. If you are feeling discomfort or pain when you press in that area, that could be a definite sign that your liver is overloaded. Dark circles under your eyes is a really big giveaway. I know when Heather and I see people, we can kind of see, oh, wow, those dark circles, that person really needs some liver support. Nausea in the morning is definitely something. You can read the rest of them, like waking up between 2 and 4. That's a big tip off. And then obviously, if you're going through some like jaundice and things like that, that is absolutely going to be a dead giveaway that you've got liver issues. Signs that your gallbladder may need support, and your gallbladder works in tandem with your liver, and it stores the bile that your liver makes. So if you have pain in your upper right abdomen, often after eating like a fatty food, pain in your abdomen or your back. I know a lot of times people can have shoulder pain on their back from the fact that they have gallbladder issues. Nausea and vomiting, the dark circles definitely. Unexplained weight loss can be something that people don't realize could be the fact that you've got a gallbladder issue. You can keep an eye on your urine and see what color it is. And then obviously jaundice or fever and chills that may indicate like that you could actually have an infection in your gallbladder. And it is one of the most um, highest number of surgeries done is a gallbladder removal in this country. Unfortunately, it becomes commonplace, and losing an organ is not should not be common. Signs your kidneys may need support if you are running or rushing to the bathroom and having frequent urination or needing to get up in the middle of the night. Especially if you stop drinking, like say after dinner and you're still getting up at night. Pain maybe over your low back, above your kidneys, or one side or the other, or both. Stagnated lymph, kidney disease, and then rashes. And then your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys, and that could be something that would also need to be supported so that your kidneys can have a break.
I'm going to talk about the lymphatic system, which is really the sewer system of the body that carries these toxins to the bowels and to the kidneys. Um, and when we get our lymph gets really congested, you can get really, really tired. You can have increased pain, headaches. I've experienced this on and off on my healing journey, and it was really surprising. You can have swollen lymph nodes, you can have constipation, you can have brain fog. On the next slide, and I experienced a lot of this, you can have heaviness in your limbs, or you can have actual swelling or tingling. And I had a lot of that, and that was usually my sign I needed additional lymph support on the journey. Now, the lungs, everybody's different. I sort of needed support in all of these pathways on my journey. But The lungs, you can have coughing, or you have like an irritation in your throat, that heaviness on your chest, shortness of breath, or difficulty exercising. The lungs may need some additional drainage support to help these toxins clear out. The skin is a big one for a lot of people. It was an area where my husband really struggled. He had rashes, eczema, dermatitis. Some people will get acne, but anytime something's coming through the skin, it's a symptom. It's not the root. So we want to make sure we're addressing the root cause, that your other drainage pathways are supported. And then sometimes we might need to do something specific for the skin, like sweating. But usually it's a sign that other pathways are backed up. So, in summary, if you experience some of these symptoms, it's a sign often that your drainage pathways need support. Sort of curious in the chat. Anybody want to put a one in the chat if you have some symptoms in some of those drainage pathways that we're talking about? There are specific activities and supports that can help your body open up these drainage pathways so that toxins don't recirculate. Because that, if those pathways aren't open, the toxins aren't leaving. They're just moving from one area of the body to another. And that's why it's really important to work with an experienced practitioner like Bobby or I, or your physician, who knows about the drainage pathways and can make sure that they are properly supported.
So now we're moving on to our third topic, which is why do you have to consider the environment that you're in, where you live, where you work? And we want to get clear on where and what toxins we are exposed to in our world, the specific facts that we're going to share about mold and how it impacts us. And then we're also going to share some signs and symptoms you may be experiencing from having a high toxin load, which a lot of times people just really don't know much about until somebody brings it to their attention. So where are we getting exposed? Some of these you can guess. I think there's probably one on here you probably didn't guess, but our air, that's pretty clear that our air is definitely impacting us. But a lot of people wouldn't think about their indoor air. We spend about 80 on average 80% of our time indoors. And so if that air is not fresh air, cleaned air, opening doors and windows, especially if you are in a water damaged building and there's mycotoxins, which are the what mold puts out to damage us, you're going to struggle in that indoor environment with that air. Our water quality, we can no longer really truly drink our tap water and get away with it. There's just way too much going off into our water that's not getting filtered out by the municipalities. So our water is definitely a source, especially when we're drinking and bathing and using it for cooking. Our food sources definitely have toxins from the sprays and the chemicals that are being put on them. Um, the relationship and self-talk, you definitely can have toxic relationship with yourself, your self-talk being negative. So that might be one that was surprising to you. Our body care and our home care products, it's 26 seconds for things you put on your skin to enter your bloodstream. So if it's not something you really can eat and put in your mouth, and it can cause problems in your body. Home products, things that like off gas, like carpets and new cars and Teflon pans. And then definitely cleaning products is a major source of exposure, along with outdoor chemical things that are sprayed on their parks and swimming pools and things that are just up in the air, put in the air that we don't even realize above our heads, up in the sky. So I want to ask you a question. I want you to think for a second. What percentage of illnesses do you think have an environmental component, which would be one of those things that I just mentioned in the previous slide? That though one of those things or multiple of those things is impacting your illness. And what we found when we did our research was that 95% of all illnesses have an environmental component, which is kind of overwhelming that the environment is impacting us that much. And of that, 50% of those are contributed or attributed to our poor indoor air quality, in which mold contaminated buildings is a major contributor.
So I'm going to talk about some facts about mold. Mold exposure often occurs with us out without seeing it. This is a picture that you can tell it's mold, but a lot of times we're living in a house that it's hidden in a wall, under a cabinet, like it's not seen. And sometimes there's not even an odor. And that was the case in my life. I was exposed ever since I was 3, never saw it, never smelled it. It was hidden. So this is very common. 50% of the homes, and I think that's probably an underestimate based on the date, have a history of water damage. It's also estimated that 4.6 million Americans have asthma due to mold. That was me. And I was able to totally reverse my asthma, which I didn't know was even possible. 93% of chronic sinus infections are due to mold exposure. That was also me. That's a pretty big high number. So if you have asthma or chronic sinus infection, you want to be ruling out water damage in your home or ruling out that it's in your body from previous exposures. And then mycotoxins are the chemical that mold produces, or one of the chemicals that mold produces that cannot be seen and it cannot be killed. Mold is living, it can be killed, but mycotoxins cannot be killed. And that is really the big aspect of mold that makes us sick. So, why is mold toxicity missed? It's missed in the conventional world and in the holistic world. Well, one, mold is just this great masquerader. It can present as so many different illnesses and issues, so many different symptoms. Um, it is commonly overlooked in not just conventional medicine. Of course it's overlooked in conventional medicine, but also in holistic as well. And since it can cause such a wide variety of symptoms, you can have a whole family. Bobby, my family, Bobby and her family, we all had different symptoms. So you go in and it's just harder. And then practitioners aren't trained in mold toxicity. They haven't experienced it themselves. So sometimes they don't recognize what you're dealing with. Why do some people get sicker from mold than others? Well, part of that can be genetics. It can also be, you have a different history of mold exposure from different places. Also, underlying health conditions. Like I had Lyme, I was the sickest in my family, even though all of us were, exposed together for a very long time in our home. And then everybody's got a different bucket, of these toxins and pathogens. And then, so it can look different. You can really have households of people looking very, very different and they're all sick, but it doesn't look the same. This is one of my favorite slides. I know that sounds a little weird, but I think it's so important for people to know that mold can be the driver of these conditions. So if you've got Lyme disease, oh my gosh, please, please, please rule out mold in your body and mold in your home. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, that's what I was labeled with, almost 30 years ago. Pandas, mold will really aggravate that by inflaming the brain. POTS, often mold is an underlying root, mast cell, histamine issues, multiple chemical sensitivity. Everybody that we've ever worked with that had POTS, mast cell, histamine issues, MCS, all of them were living in mold and didn't know it.
So what exactly happens when we have environmental toxins in our body? Well, typically you're going to see neuroinflammation, and that means the nervous system, but it also means our brain. So your brain gets inflamed along with the peripheral nervous system. Your mitochondrial, um, which are the powerhouses in your cell, they produce the ATP that our body and cells run on, gets damaged. And when you can't make the energy, the body's going to be fatigued and it's going to fall behind in all of the things it's trying to do. Oxidative stress, which is the internal rusting process that goes on. So you think about it like a little metal shovel outside that's gonna be, rusting in the rain. That's what's happening inside our body, and that picks up when we have toxin overload, along with tissue damage. So you've got tissues that are breaking down, tissues that have bad cell membranes, tissues that are letting things in and keeping things out. You're also going to be coming with toxin with a high toxin load. You're going to have issues with pre-existing conditions like Lyme disease. If you have Lyme disease, maybe and you get a toxin hit, your Lyme disease symptoms come back, or your EBV kicks in. Um, a lot of times, people kind of go up and down depending on the fact of they're in toxins, they're out of toxins, and then their symptoms increase. And then global inflammation. That was really something that was my issue. My brain was on fire, and so was my body, where everything just was inflamed.
So we're going to share some of the symptoms that can happen from toxicity. And for a lot of people, these can be the symptoms of mold exposure, but it also can be the symptoms of just an overloaded toxic bucket. Insomnia is really classic symptom of toxicity. Cognitive difficulties. Everybody, Bobby and I see, have brain fog, poor memory, and both of us were there. Pain, as you've heard, and when people have fibromyalgia kind of pain, pain that moves around, very classic of toxicity. Numbness and tingling is very classic, and we mentioned sinus and lung issues, which are very, very classic of exposure to water damage.
Vertigo or dizziness is definitely something that people don't would maybe not connect to a toxicity level. But I know I had a client who went to London on business, stayed in a kind of a water damage building hotel, and got vertigo while she was there. And it took a while when she got home for us to get a detox out of her system and feel better. Tinnitus, that's one of my Achilles heels for sure. And then you've got all these other things like digestive issues, significant fatigue, the kind of fatigue where you don't want to get out of bed, you can't go to work, you just drag through the day. Changes in mood, that's a huge one. If you know somebody that used to be mild-mannered and under control, and now they burst out with anger and struggle with their emotions, that is a big sign that toxicity could be an issue. And then hormonal imbalances and excessive thirst, those all go kind of in the same bucket of just too much toxicity in the body. So a couple facts we'd like for you to know before you head out tonight is that it's estimated that at least 40% of the population suffers from some type of chronic illness, and that these cases have mold potentially as the root cause. And then people suffering from mold illnesses are often misdiagnosed improperly by conventional medicine, or they're dismissed or given some type of medication for a symptom, like Heather said, but doesn't really get the mold out of their body. And then the last thing, which is really important, is without addressing the root cause or the driving force behind your symptoms, individuals will remain stuck in a cycle of ineffective treatment and probably continue to pop from one practitioner to the next and spend a lot of money.
Can I say something there, Bobby?
Yep.
That was me. I just got sicker and sicker and sicker and was in the traditional medical system and was given drug after drug after drug after drug to deal with my symptoms. And we didn't know I had active Lyme and I was living in mold. And then the drugs just made me more toxic as well. And I just got worse. I mean, so if that's you, you want to be looking at toxicity.
So I want you to think for a second, because a lot of times people don't really think and go backwards, but think about a time you could have been exposed to a water damaged building. And I will give you one. My son was a freshman at the University of Iowa in his dorm room, and his air conditioning in the first couple months of school was leaking. And they finally called somebody and they opened it up and it was full of mold. And of course, the school, took the unit out and gave him a new unit. But now that air conditioner had been blowing mycotoxins all over the room and on their clothes and all their stuff. He had sinus issues that he never had before he went there. So he may not think about that now as an adult, but it was definitely something at the time. I was like, oh my goodness. So, did you grow up in a home that possibly flooded? And I don't mean furniture flooding, like furniture floating flooding, but just flooded. Your parents maybe cleaned it up, threw out the carpet, and you moved on. Or were there water leaks under under your sinks or some other place? Was there a musty odor in your home, school, or workplace?
Did you have chronic sinus infections or asthma? That's often related to water damage. And when you left your home, you went on vacation, did you go, oh my gosh, I felt so good? And then you come back and you feel awful? That's really a sign that you're probably in a water damage building if you feel better out of the house than you do in the home. Is, is this one me?
Yep.
In summary, Environmental toxins impact multiple systems of the body. And the thing that's hard is, they impact people differently. Bobby and I had very different symptoms in our journey, and it leads to this wide array of symptoms, making it harder for people to diagnose. Um, you have to consistently detox, and that really requires your body not to be in this dysregulated nervous system state of fight or flight. And those detox pathways have to be open for toxins to be able to leave the body. The more nervous system regulated people are, the more the more that I see, like the needle starts to move in people's health once that nervous system gets better. There is more to healing than just killing and binding toxins. So many times, people with chronic conditions, especially Lyme, mold, SIRS, they're overwhelmed, they're reactive. And it's not because they're doing anything wrong, it's just their bodies are overloaded and they're misunderstood. And so, healing really is possible, but you have to support the body gently. You have to do it in the right order, and you can't just focus on killing and binding. Experts estimate that 70 to 90% of complex chronic illnesses um, are missed, and they're due to toxicity. And it gets missed, toxicity gets missed in traditional and holistic medicine. The reasons it gets missed are things we talked about. The symptoms sort of look like everything else, could be labeled as something else. There's this big lack of awareness and training. That's why Bobby and I created our course. There's a lot of limitations to the tests out there for toxicity. They don't show body burden. Um, and these toxins, a lot of them are not being seen. They're not always visible to your naked eye. So it's hard for people to wrap their head around it. And people move around, they sort of forget about, oh, that exposure in their college dorm or in their house that flooded when they were newlyweds, and they don't connect the dots. And then mycotoxin testing and environmental testing assessments, they're just not routine in the medical, holistic, or traditional world. So today's big takeaways, if you're not seeing progress with what you're currently doing, number one, our big takeaway is be sure you're addressing your nervous system. It's so, so important. I can help people bring down their toxic loads, and so can Bobby. But if the nervous system's dysregulated, my patient and our clients don't feel better, even though they may be less inflamed because the nervous system's so dysregulated. And number two is be sure you're supporting those drainage pathways, that you're not just going in, doing a parasite cleanse or just trying to detox without the body properly being prepared, making sure things are going to actually, exit the body.
And then one of the hardest things is just kind of deciding that you need to investigate your home and you need to test it and you need to get professional help because people know, well, I've got to do something once I find this out, can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once you squirt it out. So once you get the results back, you need to follow through and figure it out. And then working with a provider who has experience with toxins, especially connecting the dots to mold, just like us, finding somebody, whether it's us or someone else, you need to work with somebody that knows what they're doing. So right now, you have two ways to move forward. If you're sitting here listening to this webinar and you think, gosh, they have just nailed every single symptom. I'm resonating with everything. Um, you can continue to do what you're doing and potentially stay sick and frustrated with your progress. Or you can join our Reclaiming Health group coaching program, which at the beginning, at the top of the session, I told you that we were going to share with you some solutions. And we want you to understand that this is a great opportunity to stop guessing, to start following a clear and proven framework, and to understand what's actually driving your symptoms, which is probably one of the three things that we have already discussed today, and to learn the root cause approach, even for sensitive bodies, and to feel empowered. That's what we really truly want to do, is make you feel empowered in your healing journey and finally re, finally move from being reactive and confused to actually finding sustainable progress. And that's really truly what Heather and I want at the pace that you can handle. So right now we want to just take a second and share with you an opportunity. but Heather's going to tell you a little bit about the root cause approach.
When you don't use a root cause approach, which is sort of where I was for a lot of years, people stay sick. Their pathways aren't assessed and they're not supported properly, and you're much more symptomatic. Cellular nourishment is not addressed, and so the gut stays compromised. There are toxins and pathogens. Instead of just, a lot of people will just focus, say, on Lyme, but not talk about all the other pathogens that are overloaded in the body. Then the body can't thrive if we don't address the whole picture. So support and guidance really matters. I know all of us in the world who are chronically ill, it's such an isolating thing. And I definitely felt very isolated. I think because Bobby and I became friends, that was so much less isolating because we could support each other. But prior to Bobby, I didn't have a community. You know, family and friends don't get it. Um, so, healing foundations are simple. They're not always easy to apply alone. And that's why we're creating something where there's support and guidance. When nervous system regulation, drainage aren't addressed, then people aren't resilient. And then detox backfires. People have all these symptoms. People feel like they're stalling. There's fear and confusion. Why am I having these symptoms? Oh my gosh, what's happening? You know, is the Lyme back? What's going on? People blame themselves instead of the fact that there's an order and an accurate way to do this in a systematic way. So the work is really about pacing yourself, doing it in a wise way, making it personalized for you, and that there's support so you don't have to figure it out alone.
So we want to invite you to uh, learn a lot about the Reclaiming Health program. And we're actually going to be kicking this off next Monday. It's going to be a weekly on Monday night program. It's going to be recorded, and it's a 12-week online group coaching program, meaning that you're going to show up with a group of people that are looking for a safe environment, a structured space to learn in and apply the missing foundations that we've been talking about tonight. So there's no mystery in what we're doing in this program. We're going to be covering a lot of ground, but we're going to be going at a pace that you can handle. And that's what's nice about this, is that it is a pace that everybody can go at their own pace. There's no expectations. You're going to get two coaches, which is great. You're going to be guided by us on a weekly basis. We're going to start off every single session with nervous system regulation. So by the time you finish the 12 weeks, you will know how to regulate your nervous system and what it likes and what you like to do with it. We're going to support you with how to work on your drainage pathways and the foundational practices that we've talked about tonight. And we're going to be providing you with tools like trackers and PDFs and weekly homework that's going to be working with you and your lifestyle and what you're doing. And you're going to be able to work on that. And you're also going to be able to have an encouraging community, which is exciting. We're going to actually have an online community where you can go to a place, you can share your wins, your struggles, you can ask questions, and people heal faster and longer in community. The research and studies have shown that. And it's also a place where your symptoms are not dismissed. There is not one thing that we would say, well, that's not mold or SIRS or Lyme, that's probably just in your head. And so we want you to know we've walked this road ourselves, and we're really excited to support you on your journey. So let me show you a little bit about what this cost is, because that's typically the next question people ask, like, sounds great, but what does it cost? So right now we are hosting a fast action bonus for those people that are really ready to jump in to the 12 weeks Reclaiming Health Group Coaching Program. And it's $697. That's paid in full. There's no extras, there's no add-ons and things like that. And that price is good through this Friday, February 6th. So on February 7th, it will go up to $897. And we start next Monday, like I said, Monday night. And you're getting two experienced coaches, like we mentioned, nervous system support, and it's going to be about a 75-minute call. We'll be coaching you or teaching you, educating you for about 45 minutes, and then we'll be spending time working on nervous system regulation or some other things and answering questions. And we're excited because it is a community-based program. where shared learning is really important because you can learn from other people, and there'll be handouts and there'll be things that you can have in your library when you're done.
And if you were to, I think what's neat about this, if you were, this is going to be about 15 hours of education. If you're not able to make it live, there will be recorded replays that you will be sent, you will have access to. But if you were going to coach with one of us, one on one, for 12 sessions, it would cost you $1,800. And to get two of us and our knowledge, and this is a great way of being in a community, um, feels like a good fit for you.
So you're basically, Heather's going to drop so everybody should be able to get to their toolbar and go into the chat where you can leave messages, and Heather's going to drop the link to that group coaching program. So when you click on that link in the chat, that will take you to the page that tells you all about the program, what's in it, what you get, when the dates are, and it will also give you the price where you can check out and pay for your program. But we want you to know you're receiving more guidance, more time with us, more perspectives because there's two of us, and more support at a lower investment. And that's why we're excited to roll this out to you all, because people have been asking us for a group coaching program for a while.
We want you to have an idea of what we're going to cover each week. So 12 weeks, week one, we're going to talk about your mindset and how we think about health and healing affects how we heal. We're going to talk week two is really the nervous system. Week three is adrenals and mitochondria. You can't heal if you don't have the energy to heal. And then week four is drainage. We sort of gave you a little overview of what some of that might look like without giving you the tools that you need. Week five is how you can start to decrease your toxin exposure in your home. What things are you comfortable starting to do? Week six is talking about how to eat to heal and how to eat to detox and start to starve pathogens. Seven is talking about our gut and what we can do to support our gut health. Eight is talking about binders. I'm assuming many of you have heard the term binder. Binders bind on to toxins and help us squirt them out. So we're going to give you some education on the different types of binders, when to take them, how to assess what you need. Week nine, we're going to talk about parasites and pathogens. And if people want, we can all sort of parasite cleanse together. And then week 10 is talking about the emotional and spiritual side of healing. Week 11, really important for us to learn boundaries when we're sick, when we're healing, how to have healthy boundaries, how to advocate for ourselves in the long term. And then week 12, integration and moving forward on your journey. So, who is this program for? Anybody who has a chronic condition, they want to address the root cause. If you have Lyme disease, mold toxicity, and SIRS, if you're feeling like the approaches you're using aren't working and they're not addressing your root causes and the symptoms you have, if you want to build a stronger foundation for healing that feels safe, gentle, and sustainable, if you like the idea of being in community, meeting other people who are struggling on the journey, and you want practical strategies to start to restore balance in your body, you're not going to be better in 3 months. I hope all of you know that. But you are going to see major shifts if you start applying what we're doing, and you should see major shifts. You could even in the first few weeks if you're applying these principles.
So we're going to show our final slide with our contact information and do Q&A, but I want you to think really quick here. Where do you want to be with your health by the beginning of the summer? Because if we start next week on the 9th of February and you go 12 weeks, that is the first week of May. Summer comes around Memorial Day. What does it look like for you? Where do you want to be for your health? Where do you hope to be? And joining the Reclaiming Health group health coaching program could be that springboard that can get you to that place that you'd like to be in May and really set you up to go into 2026 in a much healthier state. And we're not going to claim that we can fix everything, but we can definitely make a dent in what you're doing by focusing on the foundations. And that long-term time with us, I think, is really where we're going to find the most benefit. And for those of you who've stayed all the way to the end, we have a little toolkit for you. We've also probably put it in the replay that's going to be going out for the video, but it's a Mold Essentials Toolkit. It is a PDF that we put together that's got a lot of information about mold and mold toxicity. And there's also resources and links in there for testing, for some other things that you can read about. And we want to help you take the next right step, whether you join the group program with us, coach with us privately. We want to make sure you have a tool that you can use if that's something that's on your radar. So Heather's going to pop that into the chat so that you have the mold toxicity toolkit link. And then we also have the group health coaching link. So there's two links in there that you can connect with us on those and jump into the group coaching program. If that's been poking you in the side tonight that this is something that you need to do, we hope that you would join us. We'd love to see you. We're excited to get rolling next week with the crew that we've got collected. We've had a wait list building for quite a while. And this is our last connection slide. If you need to get a hold of us or have any questions about us, our practices, or the group coaching program, please reach out. And now we're going to move to the Q&A.
Thank you, everybody. And
Yes.
the links are in the chat, and the links will go out with the replay as well.
So I'm going to stop the share and we are going to go into Q&A. If you go to your chat or your toolbar, there's a section there that says raise hand. If you would like to come on off mute and raise your hand, we can do that, or you can just put it in the chat and we'll read through the chat and see what the questions are. I think there maybe even were some at the very beginning. Heather, did you see any of those?
Um, yeah, I think Amanda, you were talking about what you were doing and wanted our opinion. I don't know if it was a question per se. I don't know if she's still here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she's still here. So I'm just going to say raise your hand or write your question in the chat, either one. If you're comfortable, our favorite part is questions,
Yeah.
and we usually get them at the end of a talk.
Yeah. We had someone on, Jana, daughter, is she and her daughter were diagnosed with SIRS following 3 years in a moldy house.
Hmm.
Um, and then someone else said they were detoxing from mold, which led to multiple sclerosis diagnosis.
So
That's
Amanda, you said you're taking a binder and glutathione. So it's always about making sure glutathione supports the liver detoxing, but some people, we went over, I think, 6 pathways. Some people need more than just glutathione. My liver and gallbladder were hit really hard with toxins. So I've needed, and everybody's different. We can't compare our journeys, but some people need a lot more support of their liver than just glutathione, or you may need support, of your bowels, your kidneys, your lymph. You may need support of your lungs. Um, Healing doesn't just happen with a binder. There's a lot more that goes on to healing than just binding those toxins out, although you may start to feel better because the toxin load's coming down if your pathways are properly supported.
Yeah, I'm just kind of cruising through here. I see that the links are in there.
What is here, Katie says, what is your number one thing you do for nervous system regulation?
Breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. So many people don't breathe. They breathe 1/3 of their lungs up here. They shoulder breathe. And you really do need to get that breath down into your lower lungs. You need to get the belly rising because the diaphragm, which is below your lungs, so you've got your two lungs here and your diaphragm sits down here. And when you do that belly breath, meaning the belly rises, if you watch a baby sleeping in a crib, their belly rises up and down. When the diaphragm goes down and it compresses the internal cavity of the abdominal area, that's where the vagus nerve goes down from the back cranial nerve. It it goes down the sides of your neck, down past the throat, down through the center, and it's called the wandering nerve because it infiltrates and actually connects to almost all of our organs. And I think the only place it really doesn't get down to is the final part of the lower colon. So it's got its branches on all of that. And so when you activate that vagus nerve by deep breathing or just rhythmic breathing or lower belly breathing, it's turning on the vagus nerve. So I always tell people, no matter what you're doing, where you are, you can always breathe because we have to breathe. It's just whether you breathe consciously or not. How
Yeah.
about you, Heather?
Um, I mean, I was an asthmatic, so I was a very shallow breather. So I'm still working whole lifetime of, shallow breathing, working on the belly breathing. But breath work and somatic practices, have been really, really helpful for me. And they're free.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
very, very
Do the free
free.
stuff, please.
Yeah, do free stuff. So, well, all of us usually need to do things that aren't free as well, but everybody's different. Janice says her daughter lost so much hair. Hope we're on the right track. We're focusing on adrenals. Hair loss is very common with mold and SIRS. At some point I have to post pictures. I wasn't bald, but literally my hair wasn't growing. So it was like super short in the front and everything else was growing. So I had to keep it like really, really short. I just had my hair cut, so it's very short, but now my hair grows, and it grows everywhere, which is really nice. But if you saw pictures of me 5, 6 years ago, my hair was very thin, very, very thin, at the top.
Yep.
So hair can come back.
Yep. And in and so there's different things. So lymphatic congested lymphatic system, especially up in the brain, can kind of slow down circulation to the scalp. So that circulation is bringing nutrition, and when that nutrition is slowed, that's when hair follicles can be like, well, I can't survive anymore on this, and so the hair falls out. So that's one side of it. But the other side of it is when the body is in deep detox, it can be purging. And part of purging is potentially losing that hair. So a lot of times people kind of freak out about hair loss, but there's different reasons why you maybe are shedding. I've probably had 3 major sheds in the last 6 years, and my hairstylist always knows when a shed has happened because I will go back and she's like, "What happened to your hair?" Because I have a lot of hair. So I will not complain about the fact that I have a lot of hair for people who don't. Um, but she can tell. She's like, What just happened?" And I'm like, "Well, I had another shed." So um, but supporting your adrenal glands, definitely. That's nervous system. That an adrenal gland is nervous system, and nervous system is important when you're not in fight or flight. That's when restoration happens, and that's when hair can grow.
Yeah, there's a
Uh,
lot of layers. There's a lot of layers to healing. And when we have Lyme mold or SIRS, it's just not realistic to think we're going to heal in a month or two. The longer we've been sick, the longer it takes time to come back to health and restoration. And the older you are, I'm older than Bobby by a year or two. I'm going to be 61 this month. And I got sick at 30 and exposed my whole life, but sick and disabled at 30. So, you know, everybody's different, and once you have surge, you got to give yourself 2 years. Doesn't mean you're not going to feel better in the healing process, but for blood work and things to come back to normal, it's going to take at least 2 years. And that's usually a minimum for most people.
yep, yep. And Amanda says she's done castor oil packs, lymphatic massages, coffee enemas, and bile pushes. So Amanda, you are way up there on the ladder rungs of, the things that you're doing. And I think what this group health coaching program would do would be to tell you, let's go back and revisit the foundational things, the free things, the breath work, the daily rituals, the schedules, time outside, all the things that have to be in place in order for all the things that you've already layered in to work properly. So it's not that you are doing those things and that's wrong. It's just we would go back and make sure that you're doing all the other things first. So I applaud you for doing those things, and they can exhaust you. So just go at your own pace. And when you hear that body saying, I really would like to take a break today from this, take a break. What else? My favorite book on the vagus nerve is Assessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve by Stanley Rosenberg. It's a very interesting book and one I will read again. Who said
I
that?
wrote it down. I know I have some books on the vagus nerve. I just don't remember the author.
Yep, that sounds like a very good book. I don't. I have a huge list of reading that I need to do that I'll have to put that on there. Let's see. Jana said, yes, we have learned. Glad you have made progress. Thank you for your perspective. Loss was worse in mold.
In
Loss.
mold.
Oh,
Yeah.
the
And
hair
that's
loss.
that's really normal too for
Yeah.
hair loss. All symptoms to be worse when you're in exposure.
And then she says now she's thinking it could be trauma. Trauma is, I will tell you, and Heather knows this, there there's not one person walking the planet that doesn't have some form of trauma. So it's not a red scarlet letter. It's a everybody has it. It's just how did your body respond to the event? Because the trauma is the event, not the event that happened. It's how your body responded to it. And some people didn't have supports when the trauma happened. And so they may come up and trigger them later in life. And that's when you still have to go back and do the work. And it doesn't mean you have to go to talk therapy and relive the trauma. That's not part of it. And I will tell you, one of my mentors, Dr. Amy Apigian, it's spelled Apig,
IAN. IAN.
Apgan. Yeah. Apigian. I've taken 4 of her classes and she's just amazing. So she is somebody that could really make a big difference in someone's life. She has something called the 21-day journey that I did. And it is just, it teaches you a lot of somatic experiencing, which is just connecting to the body and the organs and how to release stress and trauma. And but the thing I'm leading to is she talks a lot about the story, that we don't have to go back and relive or talk about the story. We just need to feel the feelings that we felt, that we stuffed or we didn't um, close the loop on the feelings. Those feelings kind of went off and went on their own and they didn't get stored away in a proper way. So they're still floating around. It's like they didn't find their home. Um, so trauma is something that's in a lot of people and have held a lot of people back. So if you are one of those people that are doing all the things and taking all the things and doing the protocol and following ABCD 1, 2, 3, and you're like, I'm still whatever. Heather and I are here to tell you it's probably stress and trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's not a place we normally start with clients, and I refer people out for trauma work, or I refer people to Dr. Amy Apigian's program and her YouTube videos, but it is an important piece. And a lot of times clients will tell us, I think I'm ready to work on trauma. That's
Yeah.
that's what I find.
Yeah. Yep. 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 And they don't know. I mean, I just talked to somebody today that like got to be tears because she's just like, I didn't know I had all of this like right at the surface. I used to tell people, is the water going up and up and up? Like it's like right here. And it's been here for a very, 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 very long time. And it's like, wouldn't you like to have it be way down here? Like you don't live in this place where the water is constantly going up over your mouth. Um, so that's just kind of our jam. We like to make sure that people understand that that is a piece to the puzzle, that if it hasn't been addressed, it could be the thing that's truly holding them back. All
Any
right.
last questions?
Yeah. I don't, let's see. I don't see, let's, how many people we got here? 13 people? All right. If there's any last questions, we want to respect your time. We want to let you go. We want to make sure that you have any last links. You will get the replay, so you can rewatch it. If you want to send the replay or the email to a friend that you feel like really needs to hear what we said tonight, feel free. Um, we are not the gatekeeper on a lot of the things that we do for free. We want this to get out there. We want people to know about us. We want people to know about our group coaching program and share it. So thank you for showing up live. We really like to talk and see people live and not just talk to a camera. So thank you for your time. And you guys have a great evening. And we will be in your email box by tomorrow this time. Right, Heather?
Yes, yes. Thank you, everybody. And yeah, thank you for your questions and your patience with us.
Yep. All right. Have a good night, everybody. We're going to sign off. Take care and
Good night.
remember to just keep an eye on your email.